put it over here for future reasons. Anyways, welcome to patch 7.23 patch notes. This is the first patch of the new preseason. So this should be the ones addressing anything super OP with the new rune changes and yada yada yada. So before I get into this, general thoughts about what I should expect to see this patch. This preseason is changing the game to be more damage heavy. With the exception to Aftershock being pretty powerful defensively, generally across the board there's more damage than anything else. So games are ending really quick, you can snowball your lead really well, and generally there's just damage across the board. To the point where I think there's too much damage and a lot of it's free, or too free to get. So some of the things that in my mind that are really, really strong right now are I think Sudden Impact in the domination tree should be nerfed. So, because I think it gives too much lethality in early Magic Pen, and it should be level scaling, but I definitely think it's something that should be nerfed. Additionally, stuff like Airy, which I think is spelled this way, but whatever, is way too good. It's usable for everyone. If you don't know what Keystone to use, if you're a champion that deals damage, everything that's not a tank. If you're a champion that deals damage, pokes, heals, shields, makes hamburgers, you want an Airy because it's literally just like the most flexible thing, works on everything, including buffs. You don't even have to shield people. If you buff people with Jarvan Flag or Ezreal W, it still shields them with Airy. So pretty much this Keystone is too good all across the board, and it's limiting other damage Keystones like Electrocute and Comet from being used widely. So this should also be nerfed, probably by a bit. Additionally, I think Aftershock is too good. So Aftershock is the defensive tree where when you go in, you not only explode for damage based on your health, but also gain a lot of armor and MR. I think that this gives too much. I don't mind the damage that it does. I think it gives you too much armor and MR. Which is weird because I think that generally that the preseason has too much damage or almost too much damage. However, I do think that a lot of that comes from the fact that Aftershock is... Well, especially once all this damage gets nerfed, Aftershock is still too good. Like, it's performing really well in a meta which is very damage inclined. So I think that it's causing champions like Alistar and Leona to be too powerful, as well as other champions that can apply it correctly. So would also like to see this nerfed. Additionally, and probably the last thing I would like to see nerfed is, what was it? Is it Hextech, Flash, Airy, Guardian? No. There's one last thing. Okay, it is... Press the attack. Well, okay. Let me put this way. I think Klepto should be normalized. In the sense that Klepto should only proc it should have an internal cooldown. So that way that the best case uses, Gameplay and Ezreal, aren't super abusive with it, and the worst case uses can still use it pretty well. That way you can balance the Keystone much better. I think that, yeah, it's fairly... It would make it a lot easier to balance, and I think that would make it a lot better. So in internal cooldown, probably internal cooldown. Something like 10 seconds, that'd be cool. I am looking at stuff like Triumph and Coup de Grace, or Coup de Grace, whatever it's called, might be too powerful. But I don't know at the moment. I suspect that they're good, maybe great, but maybe shouldn't be touched so far. A lot of the things that... So I did say I like damage in the preseason. However, I think that it's still a little bit too explosive. I think nerfing each of these will make other Keystones more relevant, as well as like generally just toning down overall the damage in the game by a little bit. Not to change the like fast-pacedness of the games or like change the fact that it's more damage oriented, but just to change the little... I think there's a little bit too much damage. Additionally, magic damage is performing really well because you can't get MR. There's a lot of ways you can work around this. So some people are saying that you can give everyone MR. Everyone can get 5 flat MR. Rather than doing this, I think it's safer and better to nerf the Keystones and as well as the runes to work around the 30 MR facet. rather than trying to buff everyone's MR up and then having another nightmare of a stat adjustment overall. So, the last thing I would like to get nerfed, and this is going to be a little bit weird, is Scorch. Scorch is outperforming stuff like Comet early. It's 30 to 60 damage over the course of the game. I think that the early base damage should be a lot lower. Like, it should be 15 or 20 to 60. So, slight nerf to Scorch. And this would overall make it so that you take less magic damage early, as well as other keystones be more valuable. And then the offset is that you can actually poke down Aftershock, not only top laners, but mainly supports. So I'm not looking for buffs so much because I think that a lot of the other runes and keystones become automatically better with all of these being nerfed. And I can't really evaluate what the landscape of the game will look like after these nerfs are in the game. So, like, obviously, there's some things that I think would need buffs, right? Like, Predator probably needs a buff. Maybe Glacial Augment. I think it's really kind of strange. But Predator is probably the biggest one. Phase Rush, really nerfed. Fleet Foot, whatever it's called. Probably needs an adjustment as well. But we'll worry about that after. These are probably the more important things to look at first. And you can adjust afterwards. So in terms of major rune adjustments, these 5 things are what I'm looking for in the current patch. And I'm kind of curious to see what I'm going to see. All right, let's move on down. So patch 7.23, it should just tell us that it's just there to adjust OP runes or the new season. So we've adjusted post 30 XP curves in the first 1 of the day onto the bonuses, and then brings in Zoe. Okay, nothing crazy that you need to see. So Zoe gets announced. I did a quick preview of her before, like a couple of videos ago, so you can watch that if you want to see it. I'm pretty much going to skip Zoe. So Gragas, they gave him attack speed. So I haven't seen many Gragases recently, and if you looked at my patch rundown of the preseason, I know that a lot of champions didn't get attack speed in their kits, which harms them a lot, not only for jungling, but also for top lane. Gragas and a lot of tank junglers suck at clearing now without attack speed. And so, giving him extra attack speed will help out quite a bit. Because I think he's a pretty low tier jungler at the moment. Ilaoi, bug fix. Tentacle slams no longer fizzle if an enemy dies. Okay, similar to the buff, any tentacle that would slam Ilaoi's target now do so if her target dies during harsh lesson. Okay, cool. So they just make it so that even if you kill somebody with W, or it still goes down. The tentacle still goes down. Cool. Buff fix. It's not a bug fix, it's a buff fix. So these generally help them a little bit. Or help this champion a little bit. Oh god, that's not what I wanted to pull up. This one's what I wanted to pull up. Okay. Flame Chopper stops in progress movement abilities. We're giving Jinx... Oh, that's so weird. Jinx... in progress movement abilities. Jinx can now stop stuff like... Oh, it's Veigar Cage. That's so weird to do. I don't mind it. I think Jinx generally is a hard champion to balance, mainly because Riot kind of moved away from the types of games where Jinx is going to be very good. So it does really, it stops like Aurelia Q, Lucian E, stuff like that. It's really strange, but a nice buff. But yeah, even especially in this new preseason, you're not able to have the luxury of waiting for hyper carries for the most part. The games are relatively over very quickly. Whether that's going to be the case in the future, probably not. But even with that being in mind, I still think Jinx is going to be relatively underperforming overall. So giving her small buffs like these will be nice, because I still think that she's going to be relatively weak as a champion that used to be someone that you wanted to wait for a power spike of 2 or 3 items. When now, like, I end games on 1, pretty much. This is actually kind of funny, because if you're playing against stuff like Alistar, Leona, and Lane as Jinx, you can kind of go on someone, drop the Flame Chompers, and then they can't cross to cut you. And so you kind of create like a wall of defense for yourself, so that if your teammate gets a good initiation, you have like you have a really unique defensive tool. I think it's funny. We'll see what happens in the games. Rammus armor decrease. So Rammus and Aftershock are a match made in heaven, but between his new Keystone and defensive block curl, Rammus is rolling over the competition. He's probably one of the best tank junglers at the moment. So small nerfs to him, I can understand being quite good. What's the other thing? Shyvana. Base attack damage decrease. So she's also too good in the jungle across a number of Keystones. I think this is really interesting because they're nerfing Rammus, Shyvana, but probably some of the best junglers in the game, like Jarvan, Kha'Zix, aren't getting touched at all. And I don't know whether or not it's because they're like damage-oriented junglers that are higher risk and just easier to like lose on or like kind of throw your lead on, or just because they're just doing this because they want to see what happens with tank nerfs first. It's definitely an interesting kind of way to do it, and God, I need to stop doing that. It pushes this off. And Talia got slight health and armor buffs because she got relatively nerfed with the nerf of Phase Rush, similar to champions like Soul, who also use Phase Rush a lot as well. Okay. I think that's pretty reasonable. I'm surprised, other champions like who are good with Phase Rush didn't get buffs, but maybe Talia is just doing the worst of all of them. Mid-season buffs. These were the changes that happened before. They gave a 50 flat health buff to Nunu, made Ivern E a little bit better, and nerfed Sona beforehand. This has already been hotfixed into the game. Not going to cover this that much. Okay, so we're on to the runes and the kind of the important stuff. So what are you going to do? Some of the area damage decreased. Keystones are supposed to be meaningful trade-offs between each other, but at the moment, area is just far and away the best Keystone for damage. Thanks to how often it's applied, we're looking to keep it as a low cadence between itself, Arcane Comment, and Electrocute. That means its damage needs to come down a bit. Okay, so it goes from 20 to 60 to 15 to 40. Okay. Excellent nerf. Really, really good. That's solid nerf. Exactly what you want to see. Would actually push people who are good with Comment, like MF, I guess Rise, stuff like that, to be able to take Comment a lot more rather than Airy. Really, really good. Exactly what I wanted to see. Predator Keystone cooldown decreased. When I first looked at this cooldown, I noticed that the cooldown is very, very long. 3-minute cooldown level 1 feels very Karthus ulti-ish. And so they buffed it to 30 seconds off at early levels to 100 seconds. I think it's really good. I don't see much Predator right now except for on Hecarim. I think Hecarim is one of the best champions at using Predator. Aside from him, I generally think it's a pretty weak Keystone. So buff Swit, not a big deal. Zombie Ward. Zombies carry gold too. Zombie Wards now grant 1 gold. Why? Why 1 gold? Why not 5? Why not 10? But I understand having this feedback loop of killing something and getting gold, but nothing in the game grants 1 gold. You know, that when I get 1 gold, I'm not like excited. I'm just like, Jesus, that's it? Alright. I guess we'll kind of move on. There's a bunch of rune bug fixes. Usually I don't go over the bug fixes that much. Well, let me go over here. Over time, League of Legends has evolved into focusing on 5-man grouping and team fights. This can feel bad for players who want to opt into split push or wave control games. We're tweaking minion functionality and tower techniques to give them more room to succeed. All turrets in Summoner's Rift have gained 300 health. Minions deal 10% more damage, right? Maybe yeah. The way it's dealt is actually it's 20% more damage, right? Because it's from 50 to 40. Something like that. They deal more damage to towers, so you want to be rotating with minions more, and you can't leave minion waves unattended, or else they'll break down stuff easier. After 20 minutes, minions gain 25 move speed, and this will be enabled several days in the patch so we can more accurately track its impact. Okay, that's really interesting. I think that'll like kind of increase the pace of the mid-game plus. I don't think it's going to be a big change, but something that's going to be nice. The biggest thing actually is this. The 300 health, let me highlight this and move over. So the 300 health is one of the ways to prolong games is by increasing tower health. I think that's the best way you should think about it. So notice a lot of the games of preseason are ending very, very quickly. And champions like Jinx, for instance, like Ziggs, like Xerath, these champions that need probably multiple items to do fairly well aren't seeing much play. One of the ways to get late game scaling champions to see more play is by prolonging the length of the game. And so generally what this means is that if you're with your minions, they'll deal more damage to towers. But if, for the most part, it's a net buff to longer games. Maybe by just a little bit. But this is kind of an interesting way to go about it. Okay. Continuing on. I don't really care about the first win of the day. I don't care about leveling beyond. No offense, it just doesn't apply to me. I'm not the right person to talk about this kind of stuff. Skin tabbing collections, cool. I can see the skins that I have. Challenger Spectate, you're able to see it in the games. And in a bit, man. Okay. So many people, man. What the heck? What else? They brought the spectate back in client, but I wanna say what this really means is that it doesn't mean that there's a box in the client. For instance, I'm gonna open up my client, right? It doesn't mean that you'll see a box here that says the challenger games are able to be spectated. As clarification, what it does do instead is it means you can go to ranked and go to master, like the highest solo queue ladder or flex queue ladder or threes ladder, and see they'll have an eye next to people and you can right click it and spectate the game. They've brought that back, not the little box thing that shows you high elo games. So you don't know what people are in the game that you're spectating, just that you can spectate high elo games again. So it's not as good as you think. I think it's okay, but I prefer the old one as well. Overall, though, so let's look at the patch as what I got from here. So I got this, right? So we got this. We got this. And then everything else didn't get adjusted. I'm actually really surprised that they ended up not nerfing anything else. Especially, I think Aftershock's too good. So maybe Airy is such a big change in their minds that what happens is, since so many people use Airy and it's so dominant, that they want to see kind of the impact of this nerf to see how effective other runes are. I can kind of understand that, but definitely moving into preseason, I expect all of this stuff to get nerfed. I'm actually shocked that some of this stuff isn't getting nerfed, to be honest. Alright, that pretty much covers it for my 7.23 patch notes. Overall, I would say relatively good changes across the board. If anything, just nerfed. It's less than I expected, though. Like, I expected, like, look at this. I expected, like, 3 of these 5. And, like, maybe champion changes. But instead, we got, like, kind of 2 big Keystone changes. 1 huge Keystone change, 1 relative decent change. And, like, a small buffs to 4 champions. 4 or 5 champions. So, not as much as I would have liked. And for people who don't follow Riot Games on Twitter, they did make an official announcement on how many patches we're going to see by the end of the year. They said that they would definitely have 7.24 out. So there's 1 big patch coming out. And then there's also a hotfix patch that will go live as well, right before the season starts. So usually Riot Games takes a 2-week break to go on vacation at the end of the year like everyone else. I think it'll be around then that they put in the hotfix patch. So expect 1 more patch and then 1 like hotfix that'll kind of slide on in at the end of the year. But yeah, I expected more bigger changes in this patch. Anyways, I'm good. I'm gonna go play some matches and see who's here.